So this film was recommended to me constantly, literally every day since my Brahma Yugam review. People have messaged me and said, "Spooky, you have to see The Goat Life when it comes out. Like, please cover it." And that was even before its worldwide release date. So people are hyped. So fear not, here it is. Before that though, sidebar. The number one metric that helps my channel the most is watch time. So if you do like this channel at all, help me out. Chuck it on in the background while you're cleaning or studying or gaming. Like, I know that seems silly, but those minutes help me so damn much, you have no idea. So, thanks. Now, if you're not here for the review, you're here for my Oscar strategy, feel free to skip forward. I've put chapters in the description so you can just go straight to it to make it easy for you. Now, this movie is probably the most anticipated movie in Indian cinema this year. As is now custom, I went to a late night screening and there were so many people that they had to upgrade it to the next cinema. There were about 300 seats and all of them were full by people of all ages. Kids, teens, adults, the elderly. Everyone had come to see this movie. We all sat down and we readied ourselves for like a 3-hour survival epic. And this might piss a few people off, but I thought it was good. Just not great. Like, hear me out first before you get your torch and pitchforks. I was worried that maybe because I didn't have the cultural touchstone that a lot of Malayalis had with the novel, that maybe I was the reason maybe that's the reason like I wasn't drawn in by the story, or maybe there was some underlying cultural narrative I didn't understand. So after the screening, I managed to sidle up to some of the Malayali guys who were in Manumal Boys. I saw them. They're actually, some of them were in Brahma Yugan as well. And I asked them like, "Hey guys, what'd you think?" And almost all of them said some version of, "It's way too slow and not a lot happened." Which honestly made me feel a little bit better, because sometimes when you think you have a hot take, it's good to like room test it to make sure you're not being an edgy dickhead. I mean, I might still be an edgy dickhead, but I'll leave that up to you to decide. At least I'm not the only edgy dickhead, if that is the case. Now let me start with the good of this movie, because like I said, I actually did like this movie. I just didn't love this movie. Straight off the bat, the acting by the lead, Prithviraj Sukumaran, is so goddamn good. Like, it is way stronger in the second half than it is in the first half. But the physical transformation that this poor bastard went through to film this must have been insanity. Like, he looks like two completely different people from the start of the movie to the end. I am talking Christian Bale in The Machinist levels of insane. Like, he becomes a shell of a man by the end of this film. And due to the language barriers in this movie, almost all of his acting is solo. It's solo, it's physical, and it's reactionary. Think about how good you have to be an amazing reactionary actor when you're the only one on screen. Like, you're reacting to yourself. Like, this dude is a gun actor. The acting by the big bosses, the Arabic guys, fucking top tier. They just feel like absolute bastards straight off the bat. You don't like them immediately, and that is imperative to the frustration and hopelessness that the lead Najib feels in this movie. As with most Malayalam films too, the cinematography is it's phenomenal. There are multiple overhead shots of vast desert spaces, and it makes you feel as tiny and as insignificant as a single grain of sand. So, it's awesome. Between this, June, and Mad Max coming out later this year, deserts are having a moment. Fuck yeah, good for you, deserts. My favourite scene in this movie is when Najib is like absolutely hitting his limit, and this adorable little goat comes up and like comforts him. I have dogs. I've also got cats, but they don't care about me like cats do. But I have dogs, and I don't know if you've ever been in this situation, but when you've just had the worst day, and you come home and you're barely holding it together, and then your pet comes up and like leans on you or rubs against you, and it's just the exact feeling you needed at that moment to like pull your shit together. This scene nailed that feeling perfectly. Like, perfectly. I actually wish there was more about his attachment to the goats and camels in this movie. I felt like they time skipped most of his like attachment to the animals, which didn't leave a lot of room for like an emotional goodbye. The best parts of this movie are the last 20 minutes for sure. There is a hint of an amazing character reveal that happens in a police station. Like, I was like, oh shit. And it was so good. But then they don't do anything with it. Like, they just show you it and you're like, oh, hells yeah, that's what happened. And then you don't, like, nothing happens with it. Like, we don't learn anything more about that character, which is kind of a shame because as far as characters go, like, he was the, like, survival. Like, I'm just talking from a survival standpoint. He's the MVP of the movie. I won't blow who it is, but, you know, like, it was a shame he wasn't in there more. Or at least we didn't get to, you know, explore his backstory a bit more. Now, something that really stuck out to me in my screening was there was almost no audible or visible audience reaction. In Brahmayugam, when I went, there were like jump scares and there were people like cringing and going like, oh. And in Manumul Boys, there was laughing and cheering. Like almost the entire audience was like white knuckling for the whole last half of the film. But in The Goat Life, everyone seemed sort of like real low energy and passive. The only audience reaction I could get, really, was when a character shows his blisters. Everyone was like, ew. And that was it. Now, that could be to do with the subject matter, I suppose. Like, make no mistake, this is a heartbreaking film. And I get it, like, no one ever says their favourite film's 12 Years a Slave or The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas, and if they do, that's alarm bells, bro. That is fucking alarm bells. And this movie did do something really good in the fact that it sent me down a rabbit hole about the slavery of migrant workers in Saudi Arabia. And, like, that's an eye-opener. Like, just reading article after article and watching movie after movie of cases where Indian and Sri Lankan migrant workers have gone to Saudi Arabia under the guise of better paid work to literally be stolen at the airport, de-identified, and then dehumanized through slavery. Like the real life story, that it's terrifying, it's disgusting, it's fucking infuriating. Like, it makes you mad when you read about it. Like, it's a really full on subject matter. And if you were like me and you're unaware of the scale of this crime against humanity, prepare yourself and do some research because, like, it's heinous and it's happening now. Like, it still happens. This is not like this happened in the 1800s. Like, this shit's happening now. So I 100% get that this is an important film, and I am really glad that it exists. But the parts that they decided to focus on versus the parts that they decided to leave on the cutting room floor made the pacing and the storytelling suffer a bit. And there were some tonal shifts that were so big, it took me out of the movie. Like, there was a romance scene that went for about 15 minutes that looked like it could have been cut from an entirely different film. And, I mean, I don't love romance films in general, but at that point, I was sort of looking around, and I noticed that a lot of people were, like, checking their watches or getting up to go to the bathroom break. So I just don't think it hit as much as Blessy wanted, unfortunately, which is a shame. Because they obviously put so much work into this film. Also, they established Sainu as a character, and then we just never see her again. Which is seems like a waste to me. Like, I wanted some form of finality or reconciliation with his old life, but that all happens like off screen. So talking about Oscars, like when I walked out of Manumul Boys, I was pumped. I was cheering, I was fist pumping. When I walked out of Brahmayugam, my mind was blown. I wanted to tell everyone about it. I kept turning it over and over in my head, thinking about Mammootty, thinking about the law. When I walked out of this, I was just sort of like, oh, okay, that was pretty good. And that bums me out because I know people are championing this film, and I know they love this film, and I wanted to love it. I just didn't really. It never got me into it. It never pulled me in. There's been a lot of talk online about how this will be Indian cinema's Oscar entry this year, and I'm worried because if it is, I don't think it's going to get a foothold in the West that we're hoping for. Like, make no mistake, I am cheering for a Malayalam film to win an Oscar this year. I am on Team Mollywood. Like, I'm on. Just like I was on Team Japan last year for Godzilla Minus One. But if this is the nominee, I don't think it's going to win, and I don't think it's going to get any shine this year. And I'm not just like speaking, like, let me tell you why. Last year, a Spanish language film came out called Society of the Snow. Sneaky plug, I did a review on it, so if you want to look for that on my channel, go for it. While it has completely different subject matter to The Goat Life, it also has a lot of similarities. Both are survival epics. Both are based on horrifying true stories. Both involve characters having to overcome insane environmental odds. They both have large sections where it's just 3 characters walking across a vast expanse. In The Goat Life, it's desert. In Society of the Snow, it's snow. Both talk about the strength of faith in crisis. Both have actors undergo like crazy physical transformations to play starved characters. So Society of the Snow has the same story beats and environmental storytelling techniques as The Goat Life, but due to its larger budget, it was able to do a little bit more technically impressive things. It's far tenser, and it's way more disturbing. Like, it's far more harrowing than The Goat Life, and it also has 30-minute less runtime. It was Spain's nomination for the Oscars last year for Best International Film and for Best Makeup. It didn't come close to winning either. So, if, like, for a second, let's pretend that I am an Indian film industry heavyweight. I know, but play along. And I'm coming at this from a strategic point of view, right? The Oscars are a lot about strategy and campaigning. It's unfortunate. The best movie should just win. That doesn't happen, right? You have to strategically plan how to go for the Oscars. I wouldn't want to serve the Academy a similar film to what they've seen last year and didn't like, or at least didn't vote for, right? My strategy would be, let's give them something completely different to the stuff they got last year. And for my money, Mollywood already has 2 fantastic 10 out of 10 candidates with data to back up why they have a good shot at taking home an Academy Award, right? First up, Brahma Yugan. It's a beautifully shot, artistic black and white horror drama set in one of the most beautiful places on earth. The closest Western movie to Brahma Yugan is Robert Eggers' The Witch. The Witch is critically acclaimed. People go absolutely bonkers for The Witch. It's won a bunch of awards at London film festivals. It cleaned up at Sundance. It won a bunch of Saturn Awards. It's got like it sweeped like a billion other smaller horror awards, but it didn't get any Oscars. But do you know what Brahma Yugan has that The Witch didn't? Fucking Mammootty. Mammootty gives an absolutely flawless and unhinged performance as Pody. You know who likes flawless and unhinged villain performances? The Academy. It's what got Joaquin Phoenix the Oscar for The Joker in 2020, and it got Denzel Washington's 2001 win for Training Day. Like, Mammootty is 100% at that level for his performance in Brahma Yugan. So, like, he could, like, there's a possibility he could take that home. Also, if you serve horror fans something they can get behind, they will champion and hype a film to no end, regardless of what country it came from. Like last year, the campaign was so strong for Godzilla Minus One. That's because horror fans were like jumping on it to get it in. So you already have an inbuilt Western marketing machine like right there if you can capitalize on it. Now, second up, Manumal Boys. The closest Western analog is the 2010 film 127 Hours with James Franco. Both are biographical survival dramas. Both are about people getting trapped in isolated cave systems and the rescue attempts to try and get them. 127 Hours got nominated for six Oscars, and it did that in an absolutely stacked year. It went against Inception, Social Network, The Fighter, True Grit, Black Swan, The King's Speech, and I think Up was around that year. It received nominations for Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Original Score, Best Original Song, Best Film Editing. It's 6 nominations in a stacked year. What does that tell us? It tells us that the Academy likes the subject matter. Manual Boys is a well-adapted and beloved story. It's got a soundtrack that absolutely bangs, and it's funny and feel good. So if you wanted to hedge your bets, you could push it into the comedy category in a pinch. So if you're looking to get strategic, like if Indian cinema is looking to get strategic this year and grab an extremely well-deserved Academy Award, pick something we know the Academy likes and has a proven track record. Don't serve it up something they didn't like last year and just hope that it gets through on hype, right? Like, you know, even though I didn't love it, I wanted to do well because the sheer determination of the crew that made The Goat Life is phenomenal. But like, if we're going for the Academy Award, like if Indian cinema is going for the Academy Award, I reckon this is your quickest road. I'm telling you. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I recommend watching this straight up, you love survival thrillers. If you're one of those people that love the story of how a movie gets made, like if that adds to the film for you, this movie was in production hell for 16 years. Like that alone is crazy. So congratulations to Blessy and the crew. Like they must be absolutely stoked that this is finally out. What an achievement. 16 years, man. God, unbelievable. Like I'm 14. I was 14. I would have been 14 when they started that. That's crazy. I don't recommend watching this if you want humor in a film. Like this is straight up a survival slog. If you hate long movies, this is like 3 hours and it is a slow burn. Like it's the slowest of slow burns. I don't recommend watching this either if this is your first Malayalam film. Watch Manual Boys or Brahma Yugam. Both are masterpieces and both are like if you're a Westerner sort of trying to work out what the industry's about, like they are more in line with something like they're brilliant in their own way, but they have more appeal. They probably have more Western appeal than The Goat Life might have because you don't have that cultural touchstone. As always, thanks for watching, especially if you watched all the way through. I know this was a long one, but I had some stuff to get off my chest, right? I reckon we can do it this year. I reckon the Academy Award is there for the taking if we get strategic about it. God, I'm hoping for Malayalam cinema this year. Like, honestly, it's deserved. I'm just hoping. I'm hoping to get some recognition. Hopefully I'll see you next week for another review. And please, please, please help me rack up some watch time on my videos. I would be eternally in your debt. Peace.